My kids say it's weird not to be weird. And the truth is, every speaker has awkward moments. We're here today with Christine Lang, President and Principal Advisor of Lang Financial Consulting. And here on the Mainstage, we are going to talk and discuss all about those awkward moments as speakers that we've had and what we've done to overcome them. So make sure that you tune in and check it out. Get ready to shine on the Mainstage, where brilliance in business meets the art of speaking excellence. I'm Meagan Fettes, your guide on this thrilling experience as we decode the power of influential speaking strategies and personal transformation, illuminating the path towards achieving your full potential as a speaker. Welcome back to the Mainstage. I'm Meagan Fettes, and I am so excited to have you back. If you haven't had the opportunity, I highly recommend you check out the last episode where we talked about top skills to create success with speaking. This episode, we have Christine Lang. She's President and Principal Advisor of Lang Financial Consulting.
Good job.
Right? I finally mastered it. I'm super excited. And we're going to talk about those awkward moments that we all have as speakers.
That's right.
So welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm excited that you're here as well. I've been loving our conversation so far. And I find these kinds of episodes are really fun and very light because nobody really likes to talk about the awkward moments. I think in general, as speakers, we think we need to show up and we need to present ourselves all professionally and create this kind of persona that we create more fear around what ifs. What if I have an awkward moment? What if I have an embarrassing moment? What if I mess up? And we're here to tell you that that happens to everybody. So I'd love to open it up with your awkward moment that comes to mind right away.
Yeah, well, probably the most recent one is I was a speaker on a virtual summit. And through, I don't know, it was lack of communication from the organizer or from this person who didn't hear everything, which is very possible. I had spent a huge amount of time putting together this amazing deck to share with her audience. And in the break, just before I was to go on, I sent her a little note, and in my, tongue-in-cheek fashion, I said, doing things my own way, just like I do in life. And I've got a deck that I'd like to show. And she was like, oh, no, you can't do that. And I was like, what? And she said, well, no, this is meant to be conversational. And I was like, okay, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, am I gonna wing it? Because I'm not a wing it kind of girl. I love structure. And so here I was so prepared, ready to go and excited because it was actually gonna be one of the first times I was gonna get to debut my signature talk. And so she said, no, it's really conversational. If you want to use one or two of your slides, near the end, that would be fine. And I thought, well, that's just dumb. That's not going to work. So I had, I think, about 6 minutes to figure out what it was that I was going to do and what I was going to say. And I thought, you know what? I actually know this deck. I know it. And if it's going to be a conversation, I know my story, I know my program, I know where I can add value to her clients and her audience. But I did cheat a little bit because it was virtual. I did have my deck open on the side, covering my side of the camera. So it looked like I was looking into the camera, but I was still able to use my deck in a very small way to be able to get the information to her audience.
Well, and I love that. And that's the beautiful thing about virtual, right? Is we do have those little tricks and tips that we can do to make it appear like we're fully prepared when we feel in those last minutes getting ready that maybe all of a sudden things have changed and we're not. But it also goes to show the power of the structure, like we talked about in the last episode, right? Knowing how to tell your story, knowing those big pieces of content that you need to share. And even in those conversational settings, right? It allows you to actually kind of pull those out. And
That's right. Absolutely.
I will always share this with everybody that even myself as a speaking coach, I have tons of awkward moments. I mean, I had a speaking engagement not that long ago where I could not form words. It was like my brain and my mouth were not connecting whatsoever. And I felt like I was just kind of mumbling through this talk because it wasn't coming together. But one of the things that I realized is, because I got a lot of texts and a lot of people saying, oh my God, that was amazing. And people that know me that reached out and were like, wow, like, you were doing really well, knowing that I was going through some health stuff at the time. And they're like, I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, well, to me, this is what it sounded like. And they're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Right? So
absolutely.
recognizing that we're often also our own worst critics.
Absolutely. And I would say probably I would have, prior to this, other awkward moments for me would be, and of course this is prior to having my signature talk, is that the facilitator would give me this. The 2 minute,
yes.
And it flipped me every single time. I'd be like, okay, and then I'm like, okay, and try and get it out as quick as possible, even though I had rehearsed my talk so many times and I had timed it and I knew I was able to do it within that 2 minutes or 5 minutes or the 1 minute or you're done, always flips me. Right?
Oh, yes. Totally. And you know what's funny? Like, I host events as well, as you know, and as a speaker, that's one thing, even myself, when they're like, oh, 2 minutes, I'm like, what? There needs to be a lot more warning.
Indeed.
Like, here's your halfway mark. If it's a 20-minute talk, okay, you got 10 minutes. Oh, then 5, then 2. And that simple guidance of just being like, okay, now I know where I'm at, so that there's a lot more of an opportunity to shift.
Indeed. And if it's all right if I share with your audience, one of the tips that you gave us in terms of managing that. So she suggested that we have our phones right in front of us and we put the amount of time. So I already know that I'm at the 2 minute mark. And so if someone across the room is telling me you have 2 minutes, it's like I already know, which then keeps me calm to be able to complete my talk and share the information that I really want to share with you.
I love that. I love that you've held on to that, because as speakers, we really are responsible for that time management, right? Like, as an event host, I know for myself, I will always do that time management from the back of the room. But as speakers, and really to like create that really strong relationship with event hosts, is to have that key responsibility of time management for yourself.
It's brilliant and it works. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, that's just it, right? Like, there's different skills and tools that we all need to have as speakers that really not just set us up for success in our delivery, but also set us up for success in building those relationships, right?
Indeed.
Being able to support our audience in a bigger way, our event hosts, because it is a mutual beneficial action that's always happening.
Indeed. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I would love to hear one more awkward moment if you've got one, and I'll share another one of mine.
One more awkward moment. Well, I had gobs of them when I worked in corporate finance. I would do everything in my power to avoid standing at the front of the room. And when I think back now on why I felt like that, because I feel very comfortable as a speaker now. And for the most part, I'm still the same person that I was back then. But I think the difference now is because I understand my talk, I understand the structure of it, the flow of it works really well, is it created a confidence in me that I can, and that it's okay, rather than thinking, oh my gosh, and the 800 miles an hour of the rabbits in my head, I can stop for a moment, take a breath. People are going to think it's part of my talk. They don't need to know what's going on inside of my head. And then I can pick up where I left off. And I didn't have that before, which is why I dreaded standing up. Plus, the topics were boring, IT, corporate treasury, not very interesting things.
Yeah, a little dry.
A little dry.
Well, and I love that you brought that up, right? Because as human psychology, we all think that as soon as we get on that stage that we need to start speaking and we need to go as fast and prove ourselves and all of these things. But the reality is, again, we're human, right? And to just take that pressure off and know that talking a little bit slower, taking a pause, taking a few deep breaths to kind of regain your thoughts is actually a very powerful thing for the audience. Because if you have to regain your thoughts as a speaker, chances are the audience needs an opportunity to digest what it is that you've already said.
Oh, such a great point. Such a great point.
So I love that you brought that up. So amazing, amazing. And I can so relate to you because before speaking, like I've been speaking on stages since I was 9 through like public speaking and different competitions and whatever not. But still, for years, I was like drenched my clothes kind of sweater when it came to having to speak in front of the room.
Right.
And again, exactly like you, what really shifted that for me was knowing the structure, knowing what to say, and knowing that I have the capacity to do it how I need to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yep, we all trip and stumble. It's part of life.
Absolutely.
And they'll make a good story later.
Yes. And they make you more relatable, right? People don't want some cyborg perfect speaker because it's not relatable. Because people don't see themselves that way. They don't see themselves as a perfect,
Absolutely.
highly achieved person that they probably are. So they relate to people who are vulnerable, that go down and dirty and allow themselves to be seen just exactly as they are. And there's a lot of power in that.
There is. Do we have a moment for one quick story? I think I shared this with you before. I was listening to a podcast about a woman who was at a trade show who was making a smoothie. And she did it twice. The first time she made the smoothie, she did it perfectly. She cut the fruit up perfectly. Everything was measured perfectly. She put it all in, and it was a delicious looking smoothie when it was all done. But she didn't sell very many of them. So then she did it again. She made one small mistake. She dropped a piece of banana on the counter. And she said, oops, sorry, let me put that back in. And away she went. Everything else was the same. She tripled her sales in smoothies. And I can't help but think, because they could relate to her making one small human mistake. I mean, who hasn't dropped a little piece of banana on the counter when you're making a smoothie? And
Right?
It made all of the difference. And between that and what I've learned through your program has given me so much more confidence on the stage. So if I trip over my words, okay, I'll just, pick up where I left off and keep going.
It's very powerful.
It's powerful to be human.
Yes, it really is. I love that story.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
It is. And I think it's something that we need to be reminded of.
Absolutely, that it's okay to be imperfect. Perfectly imperfect.
Yes, totally. Well, thank you. And we're going to close off this segment because we're going to come back for one more after this. But before we close it out, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the best way to get a hold of me is through my website. It's liveabiglife.ca, and it's meant exactly as I've said it, that I want you to live your big life. On there is a place to book a meeting if you like. You can peruse my blogs and a lot of other really interesting content. I hope you enjoy your time there.
We're going to continue this conversation in the next episode, which is all about how to use speaking to grow your business. So stay tuned, and I can't wait to see you in that episode. It's time to wrap up our session of the Mainstage. I'm Meagan Fettes, reminding you to stay committed to your growth and development. Let the insights gained here fuel your drive to success on the stage. Here's to your success, impacting millions and monetizing your message from the stage.